take care of that. We had a Zoom hearing earlier this morning, so perhaps it's waiting for us to get back on.
Your meeting will automatically end in a few moments. Please press any key to continue the meeting.
Okay. Kind of threw me there. I will have my mask on. We have plexiglass, and I will try and stay 6 feet away. If you would like to remove your mask, you may do so.
Your meeting will automatically end in a few moments. Please press any key to continue the meeting.
I feel like I'm on hold with Microsoft. So in any case, I just wanted to make you comfortable with these COVID restrictions, and I've seen you've removed your mask. Thank you. Let's everybody just take a short recess here. Okay, let's get back to business. Before I turn the questioning over to the attorneys, what I want to do is swear you in to make sure that all your answers are under oath. So if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that you will truthfully answer all questions about your qualifications to serve as a juror?
I do.
All right. I'm going to ask you to pull up to the microphone. Unfortunately, it's not very movable. So,
Okay.
but that's good. I was able to pick up your voice. You filled out a questionnaire, and thank you so much for doing that. That really helps us to explore some topics. And the question I have for you to start with is, was everything true on the questionnaire?
Do I have any other question?
No. Was it everything on the questionnaire true?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have, as you sit here right now, do you have any additions or amendments to it? I only ask because sometimes you fill out the questionnaire months ago, and in reflection you go, could be an opinion changed, or you, on reflection, think that something's inaccurate. It's fine. In fact, it's encouraged that if it's changed or you need to add or subtract something, feel free to volunteer that. But as you sit here right now, is there anything at the top of your mind regarding possible changes?
No, but I think one of the things is I fill out the form 3 months ago, and
Right.
I don't even remember what I wrote.
Right.
So yeah.
Don't worry. The lawyers are really good at reminding you about it. So what we're going to do is, as they ask questions, I don't want you to feel like, oh, I think I gave the wrong answer.
Right.
So feel free to say, that's not accurate. You're not going to get in trouble. What we're looking for is just candid, honest, open answers. The questionnaire is just a tool for that. And so your questions or your answers today, feel free to say something different. And they might ask you to explain why. Like, did you forget something, or have your opinions evolved? So feel free to offer any information. Now, you're not supposed to read any articles, and I think the questionnaire said, since you are a potential juror, avoid media about the case, about reading about it.
Okay.
But we recognize that sometimes, despite your best efforts, you might inadvertently be exposed to a headline, or a friend brings up, hey, did you hear about, and then give you some substance about the case. Anything since the time you filled out the questionnaire till today, anything like that happen where you've received more information about the case or the process or procedures, the attorneys, the parties, anything?
Just some information on the news.
Okay. And was it basically, I know there's been a lot on the news about the trial is starting, jury selection is in process.
Correct.
Anything beyond that?
No.
Okay. Now, and we bring that up, and you, in your questionnaire, you noted that you do recall some information from media reports about the case, and that's pretty much universal.
Yeah.
And the question isn't have you heard about the case, but what have you heard, and can you put that aside? Because if you are on the jury, your job is to be fair and impartial above all, but to decide the case only on the evidence in the courtroom and apply the law that I give to you and disregard anything you heard outside the courtroom. And it's also okay if you've formed up various opinions based on what you've heard, but you also have to put those opinions aside. And some people say I can, some people say I can't. And so that's some of the topics we're going to be exploring today.
Okay.
As you sit here right now, do you think you could put aside what you've heard outside the courtroom, any opinions you've formed, and decide the case just on the law and the evidence that you hear in court?
I do.
Okay, thank you. All right, did you recognize anybody on that long list of witnesses?
No.
All right. Is there anything about the length of the trial that causes you concern?
No.
Okay, you think you could serve, because we're talking about 4 weeks, probably starting March 29th. We don't know how long deliberation goes, that's up to the jury. But you think you could accommodate that?
Correct.
All right, excellent. Anything else you wanted to ask or know before I turn it over to the attorneys?
No.
All right, for juror number 27, Mr. Nelson, you may inquire.
I think I can officially say good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your patience. Sometimes these things take a little bit longer than we anticipate, but I appreciate you being here and for your patience this morning.
Thank you.
All right, so what I'm going to do, sir, is I'm going to ask you a series of kind of general questions about yourself, try to get to know you a little bit, and then I'm going to follow up with some specific questions about some answers you gave in your questionnaire.
Okay.
I understand that you wrote this and answered these questions quite some time ago. No one's trying to trick you. And if you want to you want your recollection to be refreshed, we will certainly do that. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
All right. I forgot. So let me ask you this. If you and I were to meet in a social circumstance, party, or some other event, what are a few things you would want me to know about you after that conversation?
After what conversation?
Well, we have a conversation at a party, we meet, we're talking. What do you want me to know about you?
My background.
Background, what you love, what you hate. You
What
tell
I
me.
do.
Yeah.
My hobbies.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, background, I came in the U.S. a little over 14 years ago. Went to school in Nebraska, moved to the state, Minnesota, in 2012, and I'm in IT. I see myself as technologies. So I was laughing when the judge was having an issue with Zoom earlier. So I love technology, so I'm in cloud and security and development, and I speak multiple languages. French is another language that I speak, and I'm married. I live with my beautiful wife, and we have a dog. So I love sport, and even though I went to school in Nebraska, I'm a big Golfers fan, and I love the Vikings, and so some of those things that I'll share with you.
Good. And I'm sorry, did you say you have a daughter now?
No, I have a dog.
Oh, dog. I'm sorry. I was wondering because you had answered you had no children, and I heard daughters. Okay. When you first received the notice that you were going to be a juror, or you could potentially be a juror, what was your first reaction to that?
Surprise, and anxious. Obviously, this is time consuming, and obviously I have this is civic duty also. So yeah, those are some of my first feelings that I had.
Okay. And then I think you subsequently learned that you could potentially be a juror in this case.
Correct.
And how did your feelings change, or what was your feeling when you learned that?
I think the anxiety, obviously the anxiety, went up, but I I think in between I had a plan to travel internationally, so I had to cancel my I had to cancel my flight, and I guess that's the only feeling that I had. Nothing really changed.
Okay.
And I will also add that the fact that I understand that this is the case is very something that a lot of people are interested in, and the ability for me to to keep it from my wife, and so those things, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you said your anxiety kind of went up when you learned it was this case. Were you concerned about your personal safety?
No, not at all. It's just I think it's a big I think it's a big thing to decide in a case, So just making sure that if you potentially selected, that you make the right decision. Yes.
Okay. So you work. I know you work in like information technology
Right.
services,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe we're trying to keep you as anonymous as we can. So don't say where you work or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I understand you to be in management.
Correct.
How many people do you manage?
8 people.
8
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
And can you think of a situation in your professional life where you have had to resolve a conflict between 2 of the people that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. Obviously, before I became a manager, I was an individual contributor myself. So, so the ability to, the one thing that happens often with my team personally is my team is, first of all, is globally distributed. So I have few folks in Minneapolis, some other people in other states as well. Conflict always happen, especially with my team when it comes to making a decision about technology or a strategy to implement a specific project. Person A or B might have different perspective about how to go about making that decision. Just for instance, we're talking about Zoom, so I'll use that example. Person A might say, "Well, I wanna use another collaboration tools," and B might be, "Okay, I love Zoom." So making that decision and ensuring that the team is aligned with whatever decision you make, and making sure that if we decide not to go with person B's opinion, it's nothing personal. I think that's some of those conflicts that I have to deal with. Yeah.
And so if I kind of, to paraphrase what I think, you take a look at the situation. You analyze both people's perspectives, you talk about it, and you then implement the appropriate decision.
Agreed.
Agreed?
Yeah.
And you understand in large part that that's what you would be doing if you were selected as a juror in this case.
I do.
You would have to decide this case with 11 other people, and all 12 of you would have to agree either guilty or not guilty. You understand that?
I do.
And that, have you, in your management experience, have those discussions ever become, or those decision-making processes, have they ever become heated?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just natural. Sometimes it comes naturally when people are passionate about the topic. Sometimes it just comes naturally. But I mean, I think for me, it's always important to make sure that my team understand that. Like I said earlier, that it's nothing personal. You can have all this strong opinion about a specific topic, but at the end, we just want the best for my organization, my team, right? So.
Right. Okay. So, in a different context of conflict, right? Can you think of a situation, either professionally or personally, where you've had to decide which person is telling the truth?
Well, I mean, I have. I mean, when person A come to me and said, "This person have said this," and I think for me, I will listen to person A and then talk to person B and put both parties together and try to resolve that conflict, right? And so I think it has happened to me.
Okay. And so, and I understand the attempt to resolve that conflict, but how do you decide which of these people is telling the truth? Right? What tools would you use to determine whether someone is telling the truth about a situation?
I mean, you go with the fact. Go with evidence, I guess. And because sometimes that's the best way to go, right? Because people can say whatever they want, but I think at the end of the day, it's based on fact. If person A say that person B stole my laptop at work, but the laptop was not stolen by person B, then I will talk to both of them, and the fact doesn't support that argument. So,
okay. So, if you were a juror in this case, for example, you may hear testimony from witnesses about the same event. They're looking at the same event. One person is saying A, and another person is saying B. How do you determine which is the more credible explanation?
Well, I mean, I think I will go with the evidence that support the fact, right? And, I know maybe I'm talking in circle here, but I mean, it's either black or white, right? Or red or yellow. It's clear. So sometimes the best way to resolve conflict or misunderstanding is to go with what you have in front of you and go with that.
Right. So I think, and maybe let me put it into perspective that you understand, because it's always hard to talk in the hypothetical. Right?
Yeah.
So you work in information technology, and you have a project that you're working on, and there are two software programs potentially that resolve that problem, right? And person number one says, well, I think we should use Zoom, and person number two says, I think we should use Teams, right? But they're both trying to resolve the same problem, right? And so when you have those two circumstances, right, you have two potential resolutions or explanations, how do you analyze which is the best to fit that problem?
So for us in technology, what we do for stuff like that is do a cost analysis, do raise, what kind of benefit or feature these type of technology are bringing to your team, or added value, I should probably say, are bringing to your team. So then you look at both, and compare and see the added value that this technology are bringing to your organization or your business, and you go with the one that that work best for your organization.
Excellent, great, thanks. Now, you were asked a series of questions, or when you first came in here, the judge gave you some basic rules of law that apply in all criminal cases.
Correct.
And you were asked some questions about those rules of law, and if you could follow them in this questionnaire.
Correct.
So one of the questions that I have for you is, if you would you be able to follow the law even if you think it should be different? If you disagree with the law?
I would.
Okay. So if Judge Cahill were to instruct you, this is the law, even if you disagree with it, do you think that you could follow that instruction?
I'll follow the law, yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions. It shouldn't take too long about your questionnaire.
Okay.
And again, I'm not trying to trick you, or take things out of context or anything. So you've obviously heard about the facts of this case, right? I mean, you've.
I don't know the fact about the case.
Okay, you've seen the social media video that went viral.
Some of it. I try to stay away from social media. Really, way before. So some of it, and I would say mainly on TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you ever gone on the internet and watched the video that went viral in its entirety?
What video? There are multiple videos. What video specifically?
Okay, so that's part of what I want to talk about.
Okay.
So there's the video that was taken by a bystander, and it was posted on Facebook or some other social media platform.
I saw that.
Okay, so you went on the internet.
I didn't go on the internet. I think it was somebody showed me. It pop up on my, because some of the if you go to, I have Apple News Plus, so some of those things will show you some of those stuff. Yeah, I didn't go on and look.
So that.
So I mean, like some of the news feed, like I believe Apple News Plus, give you some of those feed. It's just like
Right.
CNN and MSNBC or Fox News, and then you can click and see the news of the day.
Okay.
So that's how I got some of those things.
So that particular video, have you watched that particular video in its entirety?
Well, I only watch, I believe, whatever I got from the news. So I don't know if it was the whole video.
Okay, that's kind of what I'm trying to
Correct,
ask you.
because I don't know, and yeah.
So that you may have seen parts or snippets or clips of a video, but those were a part of a news or a media story. That's
Correct.
what you're saying? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
you got it. Yeah.
But you never, after reading a news story, said, I wonder if there's more to this, and went on the internet and looked for the entire quote-unquote video.
Correct.
Okay. And you obviously knew that this situation became pretty big news nationally, internationally, locally, obviously.
Yes.
And you've had conversations about the case with your friends.
With my wife.
And your wife?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. So the question, you're asked a question, from what you have seen, read, or heard, do you have a general impression of the defendant, in this case, Mr. Chauvin, and you checked somewhat negative, and you wrote, based on the video I saw on TV, but I also understand that I wasn't there and don't know what happened before the event.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And would you stand by that statement today?
I will.
Okay. And so I understand what you're saying in terms of you weren't there, you don't know what happened before, you don't know what happened after. Your opinion is somewhat based on this little bits that you've seen in the news, right?
Correct.
But nevertheless, you had a somewhat negative perception of that. Agreed?
Opinion.
Yep. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Okay. And that's okay. You're human. You're going to have an opinion, right? The question is, can you set that opinion aside and focus on the evidence as it's presented in court and make a decision based on that, the information, the evidence, and not your opinion? Can you do that?
Yeah, I think I can do that. I mean, and as you can see, my recollection for that question was, that was so long ago, but that reflects my value because I wasn't there. I saw, and the part of the video that I saw was somewhat negative because of, what transpired on the video. So that's all I have. I don't know any other fact. So that's why I say some what negative.
And I appreciate that. And I want to know, because you equivocated a little bit in terms of the question is, can you set aside that opinion? And you said, I think I can. But what we need to hear you say is, I can do that.
I can do that.
Okay.
And I believe I'll be partial.
Great. Partial or impartial?
I'll be impartial.
Yeah, okay. I had to double check. And you said that you had talked about, and I want to ask you about this. Have you ever talked about George Floyd's death with your family, friends, or coworkers, or discussed it online? And you checked yes. And you said your wife.
Correct.
Right? And you said, we talked about how it could have been me or anyone else. Can you explain that a little?
I'm sorry, the last part of that sentence?
We talked about how it could have been me, comma, or anyone else.
I mean, anyone else, me, human, can be it could be anybody. It could have been you. And so that's what I mean. And for me, I also used to live not far from that area before, when I first met my wife. So that's why I was like, it could have been me. So it could be anybody. So.
Do you have a perception or an opinion of the Minneapolis Police Department, just generally speaking?
I do not.
And do you have any experience with law enforcement officers?
I do not.
You do or do not?
I do not.
Okay, good. In terms of the sort of aftermath and the rioting and protesting, and there's a distinction, I understand, but you say that it asked for your opinion as to whether it was a negative or a positive impact, and you wrote that people in my community understand the protest, but we're not okay with the looting.
Correct.
How do you draw, what's the distinction, and can you just explain that a little bit more?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of my friends understand that, people have the right to protest, but at the same time, people are concerned that, businesses have to shut down. My wife didn't make it to work because she worked in the North Loop area, and the image, my dad called me and was asking if I was okay, So I think that's what I was saying. I mean by that, right? People understand that, yeah, everybody has the right to protest, just like how people protest. I mean, people protest in this country I don't want to go on and on, but so I understand that the people have to voice their opinion for how they feel about specific topic, and that's their right. It's just the fact that a lot of businesses have to close and things like that. I think that's where I was coming from.
I appreciate that. And again, I completely understand your sentiment. All right.
Yeah.
You were asked a couple of questions about the Black Lives Matter and the Blue Lives Matter. Do you remember those questions generally?
I don't remember what my response was, but yeah, I mean.
Yeah, again, not trying to trick you. And you, with respect to the Black Lives Matter, you checked the box that you viewed them somewhat favorably, and you wrote, I think any lives matter, but black people's lives matter even more since they are marginalized.
Correct.
Okay. And you would agree with that now here today?
Yes.
Okay. And you also, in terms of Blue Lives Matter, found them to be somewhat favorable as well. And you wrote that you believe our cops need to be safe and feel safe to protect our community.
Yeah, but correct.
Okay. And again, you would still stand by that proposition?
I do.
The last two questions I have for you is the last questions that you were asked, do you want to serve as a juror in this case? And you checked the box yes. And why, when they asked you why, you said it is a service to my community and the country.
Correct.
How do you define that? What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think it's a civic duty. I talked about it earlier, and also believe that to make the justice system work, I think we need people that are part of the community to sit as a juror. So
If I may have a moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, we'll pass for cause.
All right, Mr. Slushos, hold on. Juror 27, I have been pushing these people pretty hard since 8 o'clock in the morning, and so we need a lunch break, and I know that means more delay for you. I apologize. We actually have a lunch waiting for you, so hopefully it'll meet whatever dietary restrictions you might have. But we're going to return you to the other courtroom, and we'll bring you back. Let's go at 1:15. Any objection to that? That gives us about 50 minutes for lunch. All right. At 1:15, we'll come back and get you. Okay? Thank you. We're in recess. Counsel, if I could see you. So, Counselor, remind me, we'll talk about juror number 98 at the break. Welcome back. So how did we do on our random acts of catering? Was it something that was acceptable or?
Yeah.
Okay. You're
Considering-
being kind, I think.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Slisher, for the state.
All right. Juror number 27, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And they treated you okay at lunch?
They did.
All right. Well, I hope it wasn't so good that you fall asleep during my questioning. I needed to follow up on a couple of responses that you made regarding your prior knowledge of the case. And I think what you indicated was that you saw from the media reports that George Floyd had been arrested and following an exchange with the cops, and he was begging for his life. But you said that you don't know what happened before he was on the ground. And so I'm just wondering, in terms of your, what you're interested in learning, how would before what happened when George was on the ground affect your decision in this case?
My opinion, you mean?
Yeah, what are you hoping to learn? What are you hoping to learn about what happened?
Well, I'm hoping to learn how he got to the ground, and the one thing also that I heard from the news report was that there were multiple officers around, right? I want to know why there was only one person on him, how many were called, and and why was he arrested? I don't even know why. I think that's another. Those, I think it's important for me to understand the fact that went into his arrest, and how he ended up dying.
Okay. So I also wanted to ask you if you know anyone, if you have a
Oh, a little closer. I'm having trouble here. I think it's
the other one.
Yeah,
Is that better? Okay.
The closer you can be, the
Okay, let's try that. There. Sir, I was wondering if you have any close friends or family members or someone you care about who's ever struggled with illegal drugs.
I do not.
You do not. Do you have any opinions about people who may have used illegal drugs?
I think. I think it's a hard question. I think people use illegal drugs for multiple reasons. Athletes are using it. People use it for recreational purposes. It's legal in some state. So I think. I don't think my opinion matters really how I feel about it.
And when I'm talking about illegal drugs, maybe I'll even say drugs, not including marijuana, but harder drugs.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any strong opinions, one way or the other, about the use of illegal drugs?
I know that we all know the impact of opioid, and obviously, it can impact people's life, and mental health is there. So I believe that us as a society, we need to look out for people who are struggling with those. Yeah.
And how would you look out for people who are struggling with the use of illegal drugs? How would you suggest that?
supporting them, caring. I mean, I'll give you one instance. There is one former basketball player. I can't even remember his name. They used to play for the Dallas, the Mavericks, and struggling with drugs addiction. Was found on the street by the owner, supporting him, put him in rehab, and I think those are the support that we should give them.
That's something that you would agree with.
Correct.
Okay. You said in your questionnaire that you believe that the police in your community make you feel safe. Like you said, you strongly agree that the police in your community make you feel safe. Can you tell us why they make you feel safe in your community?
Well, I think in my community, I think when there is a suspicious activity, the police will stop by, they will ask a question, and I think that sense of security is all we want, right? We want to live in a community where we feel safe, and regardless of race, color, and gender, and so. Yeah, I think that's the basic reason why I say that they make me feel safe. Yeah.
Okay. And have you or a close friend or family member within your current community, the community you're living now, have you had to call upon the police in your community to have them?
No.
No? Okay.
But I mean, I would say this. Personally, I have not, but I've seen, at least my neighborhood, I've seen the cops stop by and check up on them and a few times, and so I don't have any reason to believe that my community is unsafe.
Okay.
That's what I should probably say.
Sounds like you live in a pretty safe community.
I mean, for now.
All right. You also stated in the questionnaire that you strongly disagree with the concept of defunding the police. Can you explain that answer a little bit more thoroughly?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of those statements sometimes can be seen political. I mean, I think everybody has their reason, and I believe, in my opinion, that while I necessarily might not agree with the police action in some situation, I believe that in order for me to make for the police to make my community safe, they have to have the right.
They have to have the funds to.
Yeah. So, and I think that I can understand why people say, "Well, defund the police," because they are upset about things that are happening, and I sympathize with that. But at the same time, if we want the police to support our community, that's my opinion. Right? Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that you would be able to evaluate the testimony of a police officer in the same way you could evaluate testimony of, say, a bystander?
I believe so.
Okay. You would have no reason to favor one person's testimony over the other?
No.
Okay. I'm interested, again, not in the specific location of your job, but just tell me what do you do? What is a day like for you? When you say IT, I have a hard time conceptualizing that.
Yeah, I think earlier we were talking about me being people's manager. So I mean, I would say it's a technical leadership role, right? When I have a team of engineers that report to me, their role is to enable our business and allow them to build application in the cloud securely, and to add value to our customers. And so, as a manager, I make sure that my team is highly performing. They are building solution for the business. They and also making sure that I'm helping them grow personally and professionally. It's not just about them coming to work for me or for the company, but also making sure that, well, their career path also is very important, and we want to see them succeed, whether it's with the current company or moving to another company, and also show empathy to them, right? I think those things are important because people come to work in today's, with COVID and people are working remote. You want to engage with your team and ensure that, well, whether they are going through personal stuff or you want to show some sort of empathy and make sure that you can relate to them. And so my role is not just managing them, but it's also, I always said this to my team, that I'm serving them, right? So I think that's my role.
It sounds like you're working more with people than machines. So when I think of IT, I think of the computers, and I was not understanding so much the technical aspect of your job, because I thought it said that you were in IT security. Is that right?
But it's well, DevOps and cloud and security. So being in IT doesn't mean that I have to be on with computer all the time, but it's about, in my role, it's about creating solution that solve problem, right? So the person who made Zoom, it's not just about being on some computer and creating Zoom, but it's about thinking about what kind of collaboration tool I can provide to people to help them collaborate and be in the courtroom. So that's the type of role that I have. So I have a team of engineers that work for me. We develop application and in the cloud, and enable an R&D, research and development team to build application that not only reside on prem but also in the cloud, and make sure that these applications are secure. That's where the security part comes in place, right? That include identity access management and security assessment and security audit and all this stuff, and as well as making. So that's the technical side, and the other part is the people's manager side.
I noticed at the time that you answered your questionnaire, you said that you were off social media. Is that right?
I am.
Yeah. And so with your IT and IT security background, I was just wondering if you could tell us why you're not on social media.
It's a personal decision. I mean, I mean, everybody have the right to be on social media or not. I mean, there is a lot of things that are going on social media. I closed my Facebook account. I don't even remember, maybe almost 10 years ago. So I mean, it comes down to me being someone who likes security. I think for me it's more about ensuring that my personal information are secured. I'll give you one example. I closed my Facebook account, like I said, almost 10 years ago, I believe. And there was one day, a couple years ago, I tried to see if I can log back into it. Somebody used my name, have a different picture there, same first name, same last name, same email. That's the reason right there.
I think I understand. If you would give me a moment, Your Honor. One more line of follow-up questions. You'd indicated in your survey that you believe that, or you somewhat agree with the proposition that maybe accounts of police brutality are maybe overstated in the media. You remember answering that question?
I don't remember. Can you give me a recollection,
I'm sorry.
please?
So the question was whether or not you agree. I think that news reports about police brutality against racial minorities is only the tip of the iceberg. And you indicated that you somewhat disagree with that proposition. Do you recall that?
Well, I don't recall. But, well, I'll say this. I think. Can you restate that question again? I'm sorry.
You know, and I think the point of the question is whether or not you have any views that would suggest that that the media exaggerates the amount of police brutality that may be out in society.
I don't believe the media was doing that, but I do believe that sometimes things that we see in the media is that well, people. I remember when when this thing started. There were people from my church, for instance, that were going there, praying, giving food. Those part of that side of it was not showing, was not getting the coverage. So that's what I was trying to say. No,
Okay.
yeah.
So it sounds like what you were pointing out is that what you see on the media oftentimes is the bad news and maybe not the good news?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I have no further questions. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
answers and candor today.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And we would pass for cause.
Juror 27, you will serve on this jury. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is return to this courtroom, or the deputies will escort you to the other courtroom, 9 o'clock on March 29th.
Okay.
Now, having said that, we will probably give you a reminder in case things change as far as timing. But we're pretty confident in that date and time. But we'll give you a reminder in any case. There, you have a letter with you that got you into the building.
I do.
Please keep that letter. Keep it safe and make sure you. The deputy will collect the yellow lanyard from you when you leave today.
Okay.
You'll be reissued it when you come back.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Final reminder, you're not an investigator, you're not to read media. Certainly don't watch these proceedings preceding March 29th.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank
You
you.
can go with the deputy.